So we had a tragic incident last night at Belmar. Uh, from what I'm hearing, I hear 13 or 14-year-old lost their life over at Belmar drowning incident. Prayers go out to the family. This is exactly why I'm doing the work that I do, and it is a reality when you have people enter the water. I do when I'm doing these swims and I'm doing my surfs and I'm doing everything. A lot of times when I come across these currents, even on calmer days, I can pretty much tell whether a person, just a everyday beachgoer, someone with no water experience. I say, well, if they got to out here where I'm swimming or surfing and they came across this little area here, would they be able to swim out without being assisted? And a lot of times the answer is no. And that's what's scary. You can have a whole beachfront, but then you can get into an area where there's no bottom to push off of. The current is just 10 times stronger in that specific area than all the other areas, and they just got caught up in it. And this is the type of information that I try to get out there to the world, so we don't have to have a lot of these incidents happen. And yeah, it's just one of those things. It's a real eerie morning. Belmar is a place that I love to go surf. I spent a couple summers up over there, and I did have a experience this morning fresh in my head of when I was out at Belmar like a year or two ago. I was out there surfing, and I just remember this little boy. He was just doing his best to keep his head above water, and I stopped surfing and I was just watching him barely make it. And I offered him, I'm like, dude, you can jump on my board and you'll be okay. And he was so adamant about trying to make it on his own. This kid got out of the water and he literally limped off the beach because he was trying so hard to have me not help him out of the water. And you have situations like this that exist out there when nobody's watching, and eventually this is the type of result that you're going to get when you don't have people out there. That's why even at Seaside Park, I was in Seaside Park. I was watching a dad, kids were maybe 20, 30 yards out in the water, and I'm like, you should be out there with them, because this stuff does exist out there. I say it every day. If you're going to have your kids in the water, and these kids might have not have been over 10 years old, and the dad's on the beach taking pictures of them, and they're not even close, and I'm like sitting there, couple little currents they got caught in, and I was like getting a little shifty out there. I'm about to go in after this guy's kids if that current pulls a little bit harder. They're going to get sucked out. And while I was doing that, they had a 3-person rescue about 800. I could see the lights and everything about 800 yards to the south of me. There was another reported rescue. This is all after hours now, up at La Valette, which is about a couple miles north of me. So I just, that's part of the reason why, I didn't know at the beginning of the year, I didn't know where I was going to spend the year. I love a lot of places along the Jersey Shore. I love Belmar, I like Asbury, I like Long Branch, I like Point Pleasant, I like, those are the other areas, all these different areas that I'm familiar with, where I'm like, I could spend the summer there. But I'm like, what place is probably going to need me the most and my skills? Seaside Heights, Seaside Park. These are where these incidents, are going to probably be at the highest. And yeah, we would, if I wasn't out there and I wasn't doing what I'm doing, we probably would be reading about a lot more of these things happening, because that's where the action is down over near Seaside Heights, Seaside Park. A lot of people, that's probably the number one destination within miles and miles where people are going to come. So, and plus with all the trash and everything that comes down and, all that, I can deal with that as well. So it's like, it's not really where I want to be. I mean, I grew up there. It is like where I was having my first memories of surfing and everything like that. But like, there's other places around here where if I had to spend the summer and everything like that, like I'd be completely fine. I know the people at Manasquan. I know the people all in this area. So it's like, you know, within like 30 miles, I'd probably be content, you know, just knowing everybody and knowing where I grew up, the spots that I know surfing and all that. So it's like, but when I said Seaside, I said, you know, if I probably want to get a badge, and I probably want to, that's why I was like, okay, all right, let's do Seaside Park this year, because, you know, that's just, I'll be living at home, that's fine. They probably need me most over there, and to tell you the truth, everything materialized, and yeah, they needed me the most over there. Probably would have had to report on a lot more of these incidents occurring. And I think there's a little uptick this year in these sort of incidents, because I realize that the water is a lot warmer this year, and it's sustained. So it's like, you know, last year the water was a lot cooler. I barely even got out of my wetsuit a few times. This year I've been out of my wetsuit all year long. The water is beautiful, it's warm, it feels amazing, and that is why we're getting a lot more of these kind of incidents this year as well. That's why there will be an uptick, is because the water's warm, and when the water's warm and it's summertime, yeah, a lot more people want to get out into the ocean and enjoy it. So with that being said, yeah, with all this information, unfortunately, we had another incident last night. You know, it's one of those things, like I heard the lifeguards over there that were off duty that responded, they have this feeling of defeat that they let someone down. I'm like, hey guys, at least you were still there, at least you tried. You know, I go through the same thing, you know, it's like, well, what can you do when you leave, right? It's like, all you can do is really be like, you know, it's sad, but, you know, volunteer and do it on your own time, you know, like that's just it. Like that's what everybody wants, you know. And even if I do get a job or whatever, I'm like, there's going to be a part of me, like if somebody drowns out there, to be like, oh man, you know what? Oh, I was up working on the boardwalk and now I got to hear of a drowning, and I'm like, I could have saved this person's life. I could have been there for them. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's where the world is forcing me, that's a little bit of the dilemma too. Is if I have to work during these hours and I'm up there, and I'm like, obviously I'm probably gonna look for something along the beach, and then I'm there and I'm like, damn, I could have been out there. I could have saved that person. You know, so it's like, that's another bit of a dilemma that I have if I gotta